You're listening to the 211th edition of the Bitachon podcast. The passuk says in Tehillim, chapter 118, verse 8, Tov lach hasois b'Hashem mibetoyach ba'adam. It is good to trust in Hashem more so than trusting in a human being. And as we'll see in the Meforshim, the word here is lach hasois b'Hashem, which has a different connotation than Bitachon. Chisayon and Bitachon both mean to trust, but Chisayon is a different kind of trust. It's not necessarily my full-fledged trust. Bitachon means absolute confidence. I know it's going to be good. That's Bitachon. The passuk tells us Chisayon is a different language. It means to trust somewhat. It's better to trust somewhat in Hashem than it is to trust fully in a human being. Because even trusting somewhat in Hashem is much better than trusting fully in a human being. Okay, so, we talk about a range of different levels of bitachon, different levels of trust in Hashem, confidence in Hashem. And it's important to remember that we're human, and sometimes we're better at it, sometimes we feel it, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we have a rifyon, we have a weakness in our bitachon, and we need to know that there is still value to trusting in Hashem, of course, to the best of our ability, as best as we can. So let's see together what the Meforshim say about this passuk. Tov lach hasois b'Hashem, says Rashi, Chisayon zeh eina ela lashon chisayon tzel v'davar mu'atu. Rashi says the word chisayon means a kind of shadowy kind of faith. It's a small amount, right? How significant is a shadow? We talk about a fleeting shadow. It passes by in a moment. It's better, the passuk is saying, to have a shadowy kind of bitachon. Mivtoyach davar bari v'samach chazak, as opposed to the stronger type, the more resolute type of bitachon. And what we're saying is that trusting in Hashem in a weak way is better than trusting in a human being in a strong way. And, well, again, we'll see what that looks like, but really what it's saying is that, I could think, this is how I'm thinking about it in this moment, I could think that there's a milah, there's a certain advantage to trusting in a person, being in a place of trust. Maybe one day I'll transfer that feeling of trust to Hashem. I could convince myself that kind of thing. I need to get in the habit of trusting. There's truth to that. Sometimes I have trouble just trusting. Even in a person, I have trouble trusting. But the passuk is telling us it's better to have a weak trust in God, in my Hashem, than it is to have a strong trust in another person. Partly because another person can't guarantee anything, but let's get it to the right place. Let's get our trust into the right location. Let's practice trusting Hashem instead of practicing in the wrong, in something that's, I would say, an easy way out. It's harder to trust in Hashem. Even a weak trust is harder. It's easier to trust in a human being. I see the person. I know that person could help me. No, says the passuk. Dovid Hamelech tells us, Tov lach hasois b'Hashem. It's good to trust, even a weak trust in Hashem. Mibetoyach ba'adam, rather than trusting in a human being. Says the Meiri, Pasuk is telling us that trusting in Hashem is better than full-fledged trust in a human being. Obviously, the level that we're reaching for, the higher level, is trusting completely in Hashem. But I would say, the Meiri doesn't say this explicitly, but I would say, if I'm aiming for a higher level of trust, Even if I start with a lower level of trust, I'm aiming in the right direction. I'm going to get there. Brings here from the Kara Kemach. And he says again, there's a difference between the language of chasaya, trusting in Hashem, versus bitachon, absolute, resolute faith in Hashem. It's better to trust in Hashem in the tzel of Hashem. Here's another explanation of this. Right, because we have the passuk says, "B'tzel kenofecha yechesoyun." Right, we find a passuk that talks about the fact that we nestle under God's wing. We are in His shadow, which means to say, when you see the shadow of something, you're not looking at the thing directly. But it's better to be in God's shadow, even if Hashem hasn't made you a direct promise. Right, looking at Hashem, we say, Hashem, ba'or panecha. Bless us, our Father, all of us is one with the light of your face. Right? Direct light of Hashem. When we see Hashem, that means we see Hashem is in our lives. We see Hashem is guiding us. We see Hashem is protecting Am Yisrael. We see that's Hashem's face. But sometimes we're not in His face, we're in His shadow. We're in the shadow, it looks like things are dark. We don't realize that the darkness also, it's His shadow because He's close. But we don't necessarily see, like when we see His face, so it's like there's a promise. We see God is taking care of us. We see Hashem is there. But what about when we don't have that promise, when we don't see Hashem's face, as it were? So then, we need to have a chisayon. We need to, it's not going to be as clear, it's not going to be as powerful, our faith, but still, it's going to be there. And that's more powerful. That level of faith in the dark is more powerful than trusting in a human being. If I believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu that He's going to take care of me, get me through the rough time, get me through the hardship, that's an absolute, says the Kara Kemach. That's the absolute. A human being, there's doubt whether he'll be able to fulfill his promise to me. He might say he wants to help me. He might be willing to help me. He might even promise to help me, but who says that he'll be able to help me? Human being is subject to things that go on in their lives. Something can prevent. That's the word I'm looking for. Maybe he won't be able to fulfill that which he promised. Now, why does the passuk say it's better to have this kind of shadowy faith in Hashem? It's better to have that kind of bitachon than it is to have full-fledged bitachon of a human being in a human being. Why doesn't the passuk say it's better to trust completely in Hashem than to trust completely in another human being? That's obvious. So the word bitachon means muvtach. It means promised. It was promised to me, right? Sometimes I feel like I have a promise. Sometimes I feel like I have a promise, and sometimes I don't. The word bitachon is stronger than chasaya. When I feel promised, I know it's going to be good. Chasaya means I believe, I hope it's going to be good. I believe it's going to be good. That's not the highest level. That's not the ideal level, but it's a level. And it's sometimes the only pathway up to the higher level. And it depends on our circumstances. But we need to know that that level is not only available to us, but that it also has power. It also has weight. Hashem also, as it were, responds to that kind of bitachon. And sometimes that's all we can muster. That's all we can pull together for ourselves. And that's all right. And that's better. That's better than our natural trust in a human being. Says the Gra in Mishlei. We have two separate parts of bitachon. Echad, he goes along the same kind of line as the Karakemach, talking about a promise. Sometimes Hashem promises somebody, I'm going to make you wealthy. I'm going to give you tons of possessions. Hashem made such a promise to Abraham. That he would make him rich. That's called Bitachon. Bitachon means I am absolutely certain and there's no doubt in my mind because Hashem promised me. He promised me. He brings in the note, see that which the son of the Rambam speaks about at length. He refers to this kind of bitachon where a person got a direct promise from Hashem. That it's a direct and complete bitachon. He also says there, interestingly, which my Rosh Yeshiva points out, Rabbi Per Zechariah Levracha, he would say how the Rabbi Avram ben Rambam's highest level of bitachon is the level of bitachon of the Madregas Adam, of the altar of Navardik. And by the way, we all have potential to reach that level, interestingly, according to the altar. But in any event, Rabbi Avram ben Rambam says that this level is a very precious and unusual level. It's something that the Nevi'im had. Even many of the prophets couldn't have expected to have such a level of bitachon. So even there were prophets who attained that level, but they didn't have it all the time. I'm guessing he's referring to Shmuel HaNavi. We find that Shmuel was told by HaKadosh Baruch Hu to go and anoint Dovid to be the next king. And Shmuel said, I'm afraid Shaul will catch me, he'll kill me. So even though he had direct promises, he didn't always have that level. A person can't expect, and this is an important point, no matter where we are on the spectrum of bitachon, we can't expect that the level of bitachon that we attained yesterday is going to stay with us today. It's a constant avodah. It's something that we need to be working on all the time. We might touch that place and then fall off that place, but don't get discouraged. We might get into a space of real bitachon where we really feel like the promise is there. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He promises us, Baruch HaGever sheyiftach b'Hashem v'yashim yiftachoi. Right? There is such a promise. If you trust in Hashem, Hashem will be the guarantor. Dovid Hamelech tells us that. I think we can trust him. But I don't always feel it. I'm not always in that space. And that's okay. And in that space, in that time, I need to also accustom myself, get in the habit of having bitachon anyway. Have bitachon anyway. Have bitachon anyway. V'chelik hasheni, says the Gra in Mishlei, hu shakadosh baruch hu ein mavtichoi. The second kind, which is what we're talking about today, is where Hashem did not promise me, or I don't feel like there's a promise in this moment. But the person himself does place his trust in Hashem. This is called chisayon. Interesting. He brings us this passuk in Dvarim. God is our rock, that we nestle in His shelter. We nestle in His shadow. The word sur can mean a rock. It can also mean milashon tziyur. Hashem is our fashioner. He fashioned us. We're like the clay in the hands of a potter. Hashem is the one who fashioned us. If a person, right, happens to be, I'm sitting here on a rock, got a rock right next to me also, kind of nice. The rock, Hashem is our rock. What does that mean? It means, just like a rock, if you go around over here in these hills, so you're going to find holes, caves underneath the ground, and the caves are made out of rock. Because if you want to be protected from the elements, the rock is that which protects you from the elements. You want to be in the shade of the rock. Hashem is the rock. The rock protects a person from wind and rain. When a person rests there himself. If you go into that cave and it's raining outside, you don't have a promise from that rock that the rock, as it were, is going to protect you. So, what does it mean? What is the Gra bringing out? The Gra is bringing out that the nature of a rock is to protect. There's an implicit promise. There's an implicit promise. The rock is inanimate. It doesn't talk. But its very existence speaks. And it says, I'm here to protect you. Just like if you're in the shade of a tree. The tree is here to protect me from the sun. This beating hot sun. I want to sit in a cool location. So I can lean upon the promise of this tree or this rock. That's what the passuk means when it says it is good to come under the shade of God. This is the second type, where there's not an explicit promise, there's an implicit promise. That I can and I want to, and I need to know that it's available for me to throw my package on Hashem and say, Hashem, these are my problems. You take my problems. You take my problems. But Hashem never said, Hashem never promised I'm going to take your problems. I'm going to deal with your problems. Right? Hashem doesn't say that. But so what? He says, it's better for me to turn to Hashem, who I don't have an explicit promise from, but I know that that's who He is. He's the rock. He's the rock of our life. He's the shield of our salvation. Who says? Did He promise that He's going to do that? Mogen Avraham, He's the shield of Avraham Avinu. Mogen Dovid, He's the shield of King David. Yeah, they were huge, right? They were huge. Hold on a second. Melech, Oizer, Umashia, Umagen. Right? Hashem is a king. Hashem is a helper. He's a king. That means that he's all powerful. Everything is His. Maybe He's aloof. Maybe He's beyond access. Oizer, He's my helper. Yeah, me? Yeah. He's gonna help me. Umashia. Not just is He gonna help me, He's gonna save me. Umagen, He's gonna protect me. He's my protector. Me, who am I? No, that's Hashem's nature. Hashem's nature is, as it were. Hashem is a Melech Oizer Moshiach Umagen. I can figure it out. Baruch atah Hashem Magen Avraham. I know that He did it for Avram. I know He did it for David. But He does it for everyone. He's the rock. He's our rock. So I can depend on Him. And I don't feel like I deserve it today. I'm not in that space. I don't feel the promise. But I don't need a promise. He brings here from the Sforno a little concept. Hey, I don't feel like I deserve it. Maybe my sins are too strong. Maybe I've defied Hashem too much. Maybe He doesn't want to look at me. Dovid Hamelech says, no, get off that. Release that. Let that go. Hashem, the king, I'm in His good graces. My friend, he always does me favors, and we're on good terms. Maybe I should trust in my friend. I have a good relationship with him. My relationship with Hashem is a little, not what it should be. No, says Dovid Hamelech. Trust in Hashem. It's better to trust in Hashem than it is to trust in your best friend. It's better to trust in Hashem than to trust in your best friend. Says the Rekeach, it's better to nestle under the shade of God's wings, the wings of the divine presence, livtoyach be'ezos Hashem, to trust in the help of Hashem. The human being's life is so tenuous. The human being himself needs Hashem. So why don't I go straight to the source? But Hashem, no matter what, anywhere, there's nothing that Hashem needs. He's not dependent on anything or anyone. Hashem is always available, always present, always all-powerful. And He can protect me and take care of me and help me overcome whatever challenges I may be facing. Thank you so much for listening. See you again next time.